Are you thinking about moving to the Bronx? And how dangerous is it to actually live in the Bronx?
Following breaking news of 6 people injured in a shooting in the Bronx in the Williamsbridge area.
A Bronx man is dead after police sources say he was beaten to death with a baseball bat.
And new this morning, a search underway for 2 suspects accused in a shooting in the Bronx.
So we couldn't have made this video about what it's like to live in the Bronx without first talking about the big question that a lot of people have is safety. How dangerous is it really to live in the Bronx? So Damaris, you actually live in the Bronx. So tell us, how dangerous do you feel the Bronx actually is?
I would say it's perspective, Walter. I grew up in the 90s in what's probably not the best neighborhood of Brooklyn back then. And, you know, as a teenager, I was scared to go out at night sometimes. Like, we weren't always in the safest places, right? As far as the Bronx, I've been living here since 2013. And when I moved here, I fell in love with every aspect of the Bronx. The people, the culture, everything. Safety-wise, I would say it's probably like anywhere else in New York City. You go about your business, you don't bother anybody, and nobody's gonna bother you. But if you get mixed up with the wrong crowd or doing the wrong thing, then maybe you have safety issues to worry about.
Now, generally speaking, crime rates tend to be higher in cities compared to suburb or rural areas. And according to usnews.com, New York City is not in one of the top 25 most dangerous cities in America. So there are a lot more dangerous places to be, like Chicago, Philadelphia, or Houston.
Especially Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta stay away from Chicago.
We love you, Chicago.
Now, if you've ever tried researching crime statistics, you're gonna realize that there's a ton of information out there. I learned that New York City had the highest crime rates in the 70s and 80s. They started coming down in the 90s when Giuliani was mayor, and they've maintained relatively low since then. So if you remember what New York City was like in the 70s and 80s, then you know that crime used to be a lot higher, and it's relatively low right now.
That makes sense.
But that doesn't mean that there isn't any crime here. And the Bronx generally tends to get like a bad stigma of people, other New Yorkers talking bad about the Bronx. And I think that's because of 2 reasons. Number one, the crime rate is a little bit higher. New York City averages 5.1 violent crimes for every 1,000 people, and the Bronx is a little bit higher, it's 8.9. And the other reason, the big reason why I think the Bronx gets a bad reputation is because if you look at a map, Manhattan is the kind of like the main focal point of New York City, and that's where everybody goes. People from Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, they all go to Manhattan. People from Manhattan really don't travel too much to the Bronx. Brooklyn and Queens are right next to each other, so those people kind of go back and forth all the time. People from Brooklyn visit Queens, people from Queens visit Brooklyn, but Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens people hardly ever come to the Bronx, except to like watch the Yankees. That's pretty much it. So I think we've covered the safety issue enough. For the rest of this video, we have a bowl of topics that we're gonna randomly select. So I'm gonna pick a topic. Damaris, you're gonna tell me if it's a pro or a con, and then we're gonna switch. Ready?
Oh God.
All right, so this is the first topic. Oh, this is a good one. Cleanliness. Would you say cleanliness is a pro or a con?
For the Bronx, I would say it's a con.
Okay.
I've been living here long enough to say it's a con.
Okay. What makes it a con?
The streets don't get clean, like the sidewalks don't get cleaned enough. The trash doesn't get picked up on time. It's just dirty some places.
Most places in the Bronx, not the cleanest. Especially I live in Westchester, and comparative to Westchester, much cleaner and much nicer.
It's gotten better over the years, but it's still, I mean, it's yeah.
It's not clean. Okay, now you go.
Ooh. Parking.
So this is one thing that Damaris and I disagree on, because I think that parking is a pro. I always am able to find parking. Sometimes I have to drive around the block a couple of times, but parking seems to be relatively easy compared to, I guess, let's say Manhattan, where there's hardly any parking.
So next time,
okay,
you call me and ask me if you could block my driveway.
Yes.
I'm gonna be like, "Where's the pro, Walter?"
Where's the free parking? Right, right.
I think the Bronx has, over the years, become a little bit more overpopulated.
Yeah.
And there's definitely less and less parking spaces. People are also rebuilding houses and things like that and making sure that they have parking. So that's also kind of cutting into the street parking.
Let's see what we have. Friendly neighbors. Is that a pro or a con?
That's perspective on where you live.
Right.
So I've only lived in 2 places in the Bronx. I lived in Throgsneck, and I was there for about a year or 2, and that was beautiful. My neighbors were great. We knew everybody. We still know everybody, you know. When I moved to Morris Park, it was a little bit of a different experience. But I think it's maybe block to block where you live, what the community is like.
Right, because
in that specific area.
In Brooklyn, we almost never spoke to our neighbors. And when I moved to Throgsneck, which is in the Bronx, the neighbors were so nice to us. Everybody was friendly. We would say hi to each other every day. We'd talk, you know, little chit chat. When I lived in Fordham for a little bit, the neighbors were nice there as well. But in that Morris Park area, not the friendliest. But yeah, I guess it's perspective, block by block. All right, you go next.
Public transportation.
This is definitely a pro. New York City has one of the most expansive subway systems. There's subways, there's buses, there's even express buses that go into Manhattan, and there's also a ferry system as well that connects Bronx into Manhattan through boats. So you can take buses, subways, and boats to work. Anything else you want to add?
We should take the ferry to the city.
No, we're not. We're going to Manhattan today.
And avoid that toll.
And they just increased the, what's it called? Something
Congestion toll.
Congestion toll. So now it costs between $9 and $30 to drive into Manhattan. We would have taken 2 cars, but now we're gonna probably take 1 car. All right, who's next? You go next?
No, you.
I go? No, I just read.
No, I just read and you spoke.
Oh, that's right. I gotta go. All right, let's go. Here we go. People everywhere.
Everywhere.
Is that a pro or a con? Too many people or too few people?
No, there's definitely people everywhere. I guess it depends your personality.
Yeah.
For me, I love it. I always have somebody to talk to. Anywhere I go, I take my daughter to the park, we make new friends. You know, we go to a new restaurant or we go to the bar down the street, we meet somebody new. So I love that. But for maybe somebody that's a little bit more conservative or introverted, they may not like that as much.
No, to me, this is a con. There's way too many people. You got neighbors above you, below you, to the sides of you. All the houses are right next to each other. For me, I think I don't mind it when it's quiet outside or when you see 1 or 2 people. I don't want there to be nobody there, like a ghost town. But when there's people up and down the street and everywhere you go into the corner store and there's 5, 6 people in there. There's a lot of people in the Bronx. Actually, the Bronx has 1.4 million people in there right now.
What about the other?
I think New York City in total has about 9 million.
Oh, wow.
And so we're probably about 20% of them live in the Bronx. All right,
My turn.
You go next.
My turn. The highway system.
Highway system is definitely a pro because the Bronx has a lot of different highways that chop it all up. When I first started selling real estate, I remember I would be able to get anywhere in the Bronx in about 20, 30 minutes driving. And that's complete opposite from Brooklyn. Brooklyn, if you take a look at a map, it has 2 highways. It's got the BQE on one side, on the west side, and it's got the Belt Parkway on the other side. And that's it. So the Bronx has the Bronx River Parkway, it's got the Bruckner, it's got the Major Deegan, and there's one more,
Bronx?
and the Cross Bronx Expressway. So it's all cut up, and you can probably get anywhere you want in the Bronx in about 20 minutes.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Okay.
And I get everywhere in 22 minutes.
Oh yeah, because Damaris lives in Morris Park, is just right in the middle, so she can get anywhere.
Literally.
15, 20 minutes. Let's go with this. And parks and green spaces. Would you say that's a pro or a con?
That's a pro.
Okay.
Definitely a pro. We have some of the biggest parks in all of New York City here in the Bronx. Pelham Bay Park, Van Cortlandt Park. Botanical Gardens is absolutely beautiful. I go there regularly with my family. So I'd say that's definitely a pro.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this video is going to be perspective from where we come from because I grew up in Brooklyn and then moved to Queens. And so they also have nice parks, but I think there's a lot more green spaces in the Bronx. Here you go.
Dun, dun, dun. Location.
Oh, location is definitely a pro. If you look at a map, the Bronx is tucked away between Manhattan to the south and Westchester to the north. You're like a 15-minute drive into New Jersey. You're like a 15-minute drive into Queens, like a 30-minute drive to Brooklyn, like a 20-minute drive to Connecticut. So as far as the location goes, I think it's definitely a pro if you need to commute anywhere around there. And with all the great highways, I mean, you can get anywhere you need in, relatively short time. Next.
Your turn.
Attractions.
Ooh.
Pro or con?
Definitely a pro.
Okay.
So the Bronx has some of the biggest, I don't want to say biggest attractions. Is that
It's got some big attractions.
So I would say the Bronx Zoo is one of them.
Okay.
It's the biggest zoo in New York City. Botanical Gardens. We absolutely love Botanical Gardens. We have memberships actually for both, my family and I. And then we have Yankee Stadium. I'm a big Mets fan, but I love Yankee Stadium. There's something about that stadium that
It's beautiful.
brings that energy, that New York City energy to.
Yeah, and it's got all the bars and hangout spots right outside, which I'm a little jealous of because the Mets don't have any of that. But if you walk up and down, if you're going to go to a Yankee game, you want to get there like an hour and a half before and just enjoy that atmosphere before you go to the game.
Absolutely.
So, all right, whose turn is it?
Mine.
Okay, go for it.
Infrastructure.
This is definitely a con because the Bronx is so old. It's got to be like 150, 200 years old or something like that. Things are falling apart. Every time I go visit Damaris, they're redoing the gas lines in the middle of the street, right? And all the street is all chopped up and there's metal plates covering the holes and things like that. And I remember this was like about a year ago. There was just a big hole that just popped up in the middle of the street.
There was a sinkhole.
A sinkhole in the middle of the street.
3 or 4 blocks from us, like over the summer, which was crazy. But that's what it is. Everything is old. Everything deteriorates.
Because eventually the plumbing, the electricity, the electric, the gas lines, all of that needs to be redone. And because there's so many people in the Bronx, I mean, it's a lot of work.
It's only a matter of time. So.
Yeah, the streets are always funky.
You're next.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Property taxes, pro or con?
All right, we disagree here, and I think it's because Walter no longer lives here in the Bronx, but I would say it's a con. I bought my house Jeffrey and I bought the house in 2017, and our taxes were about $5,500, and I just got my tax return thing, and it's gone up to a little under $9,000.
Wow.
For last year, yeah.
Wow.
So it's almost doubled, or I don't know what the number is, but it's going up there, and a lot of that has to do with values. Property values are going up, so naturally, your taxes are going to go up.
Yeah, I used to think that it was a pro because I remember when I started selling real estate in 2007, property taxes on a single family house were about $2,400 a year.
What?
And that was ridiculous. It was half the cost of living in Westchester, but on a 2-family, it's up to $9,000 now.
Yeah.
And what would you say the average taxes on a single family?
Maybe between 55 and 6.
Okay, so it's still lower than Westchester.
Yes,
but
for sure.
You no longer get the great schools, and you're still in New York City and paying all those taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, your turn.
Noise.
Noise is definitely a con because you got neighbors all around you, and if you happen to live next to the train station, you also have to hear the train station make noise as you go by. So there's always traffic and people and things around. It's just a noisy place. So if you value quietness and peace, then maybe the Bronx is not the best area for you.
Unless you're used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it after a while. And
I'm gonna miss the Bad Bunny, blasting on a summer night down the block.
Yeah.
I might miss that.
Most people don't happen to live like right next to the train station, and there are some train stations that as the train goes by, they're required to go slow down. So they're not like making a huge amount of noise like in the middle of the night waking you up. But yeah, I would say that if generally speaking, it's a noisy place.
Your turn.
Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. This is a good one. Foods and restaurants.
Yes.
Pro or con?
Totally wanted to get this one.
Okay.
Definitely a pro. So I would say that the Bronx has some of the best restaurants and some of the best types of food
Okay.
in New York City.
Variety.
Variety, yeah, that's what I meant. Best Italian food.
Okay.
I would go say best Mexican food. I might get some heat for that, right? Dominican food, you cannot top Dominican restaurants here in the Bronx. And one of my favorites, Indian food.
What's your favorite? Give me one of each.
Okay. Definitely Italian is the Pine,
Okay.
right? So we live like 2 blocks from the Pine. We absolutely love it. Best Italian food there is. My favorite dish is this chicken scarp over penne. Just
Okay.
in case, right? Or they have really good chicken scarp wings. Mexican, definitely Estrellita 4.
Which one is that? Where's that one?
The
at?
one on Williamsbridge. That's Williamsbridge, right? Like,
Westchester Square.
yeah, the one on Westchester Square. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on Williamsbridge, in Westchester Square. Oh man, that guacamole is to die for, and that spicy beef soup.
Oh, that's good. If you like spicy food, the soup.
Yeah.
Oh my
that
God.
spicy. Oh, delicious. Dominican Imperial is my go-to for Dominican, but then the Colonial on White Plains Road and Brady is also really, really good. Like sit down kind of environment. You know, they have really good drinks, things like that. Okay. The bakeries.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, you can't talk. The bakeries to die for. My personal favorite is Conti's on Morris Park Ave. I go there for absolutely everything. What's yours?
I like Salad Dom's because it's so fresh. The food is fresh. It's not great looking as a bakery, but the food is delicious.
Another one that we absolutely love, it's a little different type of bakery, is El Capi on Fordham Road. Those tres leches cake, best thing in the world.
Yeah, they're really good. They're really good. Okay, it's my turn, so you go pick.
I could talk about food forever. Schools.
So schools is a con. The Bronx or New York City doesn't have the best reputation as far as schools go. And I think I researched this before. There's like 45 or 46 public schools, elementary schools in the Bronx, and only 3 of them have a rating of 7 or more on greatschools.com, and they all happen to be in Riverdale. So as far as school system goes, I went to public school, so I didn't think it was a big deal going to public schools, but I know a lot of parents do care about that a lot. And so people will move out of the Bronx to send their kids to a better school or pay for private school.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to move out of the Bronx because of the school system. And
Yeah.
Aria starts school in about a year or so.
Right, but we encourage you to do your own research
Yeah.
and check out the schools for yourself. Okay, I'll go next. Affordability, pro or a con?
I don't know. I don't know anymore. I feel like the Bronx has always been affordable, right? But with everything going up and everything becoming more expensive, it might not be there anymore.
Right.
You know,
Let me try to find the...
compared to like Jersey or compared to Connecticut and things like that. Like I think if you compare the Bronx to the other boroughs, especially Bronx and Queens and Manhattan, I'm sorry, Brooklyn, Queens and Manhattan, then it still holds that affordability. But if you start comparing it to moving to Jersey or moving it to Connecticut, you know, then maybe it's not as affordable.
So you're 100% correct. If you compare it to the other boroughs in New York, it's more affordable. But when you start leaving New York, going to Connecticut or Jersey or Pennsylvania, then you start realizing that it's not as affordable. So I just looked up a single family in Manhattan. The average price is $2.9 million. In Brooklyn, a single family in Brooklyn, $917,000. Queens, $835,000. Bronx, $644,000. And the lowest borough is Staten Island, which is $588. So compared to the other boroughs, yes, it is more affordable. But if you start leaving the New York area, then you can definitely get houses for much lower. Okay, cool.
My turn.
You're next.
Beaches.
Beaches are a major con. If you like beach weather, if you like going to the beach, the Bronx really doesn't have that. We have one kind of sort of beach, which is Orchard Beach, which it has sand and water, so it technically qualifies as a beach, but there's no waves. Have you ever seen people get in the water? I've like barely
Never.
seen people actually go into the water.
Never.
So yeah, if you like
I feel like you go to Orchard Beach to play handball,
to hang out,
play basketball, and listen to music.
yeah, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people there, and they love it, and they like going there. But as far as going to a nice beach, we really don't have that. All right, my turn. Let's go for housing availability, pro or a con?
Definitely a con. So there's no houses anywhere right now.
Yeah.
Right? Inventory is super, super low.
For purchasing and for renting, both.
Yes. And the Bronx is just, it's overpopulated for its size.
Right.
That's what it is. So there is barely apartments to rent. There's barely houses to buy right now.
Okay, and that's causing both home values to go up and as far as rentals, so also the prices on rentals to go up. So just to give you some context of what the average rentals are going for today, the average rental of a one bedroom in the Bronx is $2,140. Back in 2007, that apartment would rent for $900. A two bedroom average rental in the Bronx is $2,670. 15 years ago, whatever, it was $1,200. And a three bedroom average rental is $3,431, almost $3,500. And back, when I started doing real estate, it was $1,500 for a three bedroom apartment. So you can see with inflation and everything.
I gotta raise the rent.
Yeah, if you're paying less than $3,000 for a three bedroom, you're getting a good deal right now, which is crazy. All right, that was pretty much it. My name is Walter. This is Damaris. We're both local real estate agents. We work Westchester and Bronx County, New York. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.